there's a lot of question marks with the team. So
there's a lot of question marks with the Nets, and the personalities are the biggest problem with Brooklyn. It's not a problem yet. Franchise that everyone has been talking about.
Interesting franchise, this
the
one.
The Brooklyn Nets.
Yes. So the biggest thing they did this offseason, aside from the James Harden rumors, they signed up Stevie Nash, former two-time MVP from Canada. Great player, as everyone knows.
Is that a Canadian thing?
What?
To sing your country? Well,
I like to sing Steve Nash's praises, as I'm about to do. He's a two-time MVP. Yep. Was the architect, maybe not the architect, but the engine that ran the Suns vehicle back in the, we'll say 04 to about 2010. He was an outstanding player, an outstanding basketball mind. He still is. But he has no coaching experience per se, especially as a head coach. What I did like is that they grabbed Mike D'Antoni as his assistant.
I do like that.
Who's going to run the offense, obviously. Who's a genius on offense. And I think this means, because Nash he has a history of working with Durant in Golden State on the training staff. He understands the strengths that Durant has, which are numerous.
Yep.
I think he's going to put him in a lot of good positions. And also, I think he can bolster Kyrie in a lot of different ways. Kyrie's already an offensive star. But I think Steve Nash is a really good people person as well. Everybody raves about how he's a great leader, brings guys together. He understands different personalities need to mesh for a team to be successful. He's a good hire, but there's a lot of question marks with the team. So
there's a lot of question marks with the Nets, and the personalities are the biggest problem with Brooklyn. It's not a problem yet.
I'm not even worried about Durant. It's more Kyrie personality-wise.
Yeah.
But
Durant's had his issues though.
Some of them.
We can't overlook Durant. Durant had issues in Golden State with Draymond. He had issues in OKC with Russ.
He has issues with Twitter.
He does have a lot of issues with Twitter.
Mr. Burner.
He can't stay off Twitter, whether as himself or someone else.
Twitter's cool.
He's all over Twitter.
Yeah.
He's an MVP caliber player.
Yeah. If it wasn't for LeBron and a couple of other guys, he'd probably have multiple MVPs.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a special talent. I would argue top 15 player of all time, honestly.
Okay.
Put resume aside, if you just pick a basketball player to be on your team.
I'd need to start writing down a list to even.
We'll get into that maybe in another episode, but he's in my top 15 for sure, all time.
Okay.
Just as a player. But nonetheless, he's a special talent. If he's healthy, that's a big. They didn't have him all season last year.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you have Kevin Durant on your team. He's a guy that every other team worries about on offense.
Yeah, he draws a lot of
defense.
He draws a lot of attention. Re-signing Joe Harris means more freedom for him, especially with Durant on the floor. Can Durant get him the ball? The last time we saw Durant play, he averaged 26, 6.5, and 6.
Pretty good.
So that's rebounds before assists. He's a 35% three-point shooter.
Okay.
And
it would be higher.
Look, he's 32 now, and he's coming back after a very, very serious injury. Can't understate how big an Achilles injury is, and how much work goes into coming back.
Absolutely.
We've just seen, Clay go down with an Achilles injury.
John Wall
had his Achilles, and DeMarcus Cousins also did an Achilles.
It changed his career, at least.
It
changes a lot of guys' careers, but specifically, Cousins lost a little bit of his explosiveness. I just think to that point, when you tear your Achilles, it's one of those injuries where you're going to be thinking about it a lot as a player recovering. You go through all the wear and tear.
It's that explosiveness
of the season. Yeah, exactly.
Explosiveness all comes from there.
Because you don't even think about it when you're pushing off of your foot normally before you tear an Achilles.
Kneeling,
anything.
It's
You hope that he doesn't overcompensate with other stuff, and then that can lead to other injuries.
I don't know why I said kneeling, referring to basketball. It was a weird one.
Well, you gotta
just came out.
Take a breather.
I'm sorry.
On a timeout?
Yeah,
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
That's all good.
That's an interesting take.
Kneeling.
So there you go. If Kevin Durant's kneeling, we've got problems.
Bad news.
Bad news.
That's a strange hot take, but yeah.
Thanks.
No worries.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about Kyrie as a franchise guy. Now,
I love to talk about Kyrie. Go ahead.
Kyrie is such an interesting guy.
Right?
But not because of the way he plays basketball.
No. I mean, it's part of the story.
I think
his talent
it has to be.
His talent coincides with his personality.
It has to.
It's so weird.
He's an exuberant player on the court. Loves to have the ball in his hands. In fact, could go 40 minutes with just the ball in his hands without giving it up. If the shot clock was endless, it'd be a 40-minute game of Kyrie's handles.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah. But the main issue with Kyrie is his ability to work with other players.
Mm-hmm.
It's been his issue since he left Cleveland, not wanting to be in LeBron's shadow. It's been his issue when he was with Boston, blaming the young guys that they drafted for the performance on the court. And it was an issue last year when he came out and said that they need better players.
Yeah.
And he basically threw Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert straight under the bus.
Wasn't a fan of that.
I wasn't a fan of that.
That's
either.
not leadership at all.
I really struggle to watch the way Kyrie talks about his teammates.
It's not flattering.
It's not.
And to the point of leadership, I think he's done a lot of work. Well, I have to give him credit for the work he did relating to Black Lives Matter and what have you. He's been excellent with that stuff. I don't have to go into detail about it.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself. But Kyrie, as a leading personality of your team, he's going to say some questionable stuff. You kind of have to deal with it if you want his offense. And that's the thing. He was so good with LeBron. I don't want to say it broke my heart, but it hurt a bit to see him be like, no, I don't want to play here anymore. Because that was an exciting duo.
It's upsetting as an NBA fan. He hit one of the most clutch shots of all time. And he couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest franchise runs ever. That Cleveland team.
Absolutely. Dominant.
LeBron coming back was incredible.
Yeah. It was a dominant 4 seasons.
Yeah.
LeBron was back there.
And, Kyrie came out and didn't want to be with LeBron anymore. He wanted his own franchise.
Yeah,
and
that's what it was, really.
He couldn't even take that at Boston, though.
Boston's a tough place.
Well, Boston is a very tough place.
But he didn't factor that into his demands.
He also came out preseason in Boston. I don't know if you remember, and he said he'll be staying in Boston.
He wanted his jersey retired there. Did he say that?
Something along those lines. Yeah, he was in the preseason and he came out and he was doing an interview on court with all the fans there. And he said that Boston is his home and he's going to stay there.
I do remember that specifically.
That offseason, that was it. Gone.
He also had some commercial. I think the commercial is where he said he wanted his number retired in the rafters. Pretty lofty thing to ask for when you just got there. He has a jersey retiring level of talent, but to do it in Boston and just sort of flip it was a bit unsettling and makes you question if it's going to work in Brooklyn, obviously.
Well, Brooklyn have a similar kind of, that ride or die kind of fan base that have been through a lot. That's a rough franchise.
They went through a handful of years where it was just like, okay, so we don't have any draft picks. We kind of just have to field the team. And hopefully we sell tickets. They managed to do that. So congratulations to Brooklyn for selling tickets during those tough years.
Yeah, well done, guys.
But they came out on the other end. I just wanted to give a shout out quickly to GM Sean Marks, Kiwi, great GM. He made some shrewd moves to get rid of some weird stuff that was happening there. When they had the Garnett and the Pierce contracts, and he's put them in this position to get this talent. So to make it work would be a hell of a comeback.
Yeah,
I'm not pulling for them. I'm not a Brooklyn fan, but it would be a hell of a comeback.
I am curious to see what kind of system Nash runs, whether it is the D'Antoni Rocket system. I doubt it. I doubt that he's going to run
mix, I think.
Heavy ISO.
No, not ISO.
So is it going to be a lot of off-ball movement? Are we going to see some kind of iteration of what the Heat were doing last year? I think it all depends on how Durant wants to play because I think he kind of dictates the offense. And how much ISO we get from Kyrie, who's a guy that
a fair amount. I would imagine we're going to get a fair amount.
He tends to just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he tends to just take the ball and do it.
But they got together with Durant has said like, oh, I wanted to play with Kyrie. I love his game, and they're friendly and this and that. Coming together and actually playing together,
we'll
see.
Different situation.
Yeah.
It's all fun and games to go to shoot around with a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you're on the same court and they're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
You kind of look at them like, hey, you weren't doing that last week. Like, where's this come from?
Exactly.
So
that's a bit like when we're just shooting around and we have some hot takes at the court, but then when we get on the mic, I think we're explosive. I don't know if they're going to be explosive.
Yeah, you're right.
If their duo works out like ours does, it's in for a good season, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Count on it.
Yeah, if you guys can, have the same sort of chemistry, then look out.
Rings galore. Fill up the fingers.
I also wanted to talk about the contracts that they have on the roster. So Karis LeVert is actually earning $16 million, which is, it's probably about his value.
I was going to say, yeah, that's fair.
I don't think he's a starter. I think he should be a six man.
If he would accept the role, I could see that working.
Well,
I don't think
Dinwiddie's
he would.
a six man too.
Yeah.
So
Dinwiddie's. I like Dinwiddie. Actually.
I like Dinwiddie too.
Good price too.
$11.5
million for Spencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Karis could come off the bench, but he's got starter level talent to me.
Yeah. He's a great player, and that's. I think that you have contracts there that can be moved if you want to go all in with this franchise. The roster, the way it is not beating the Lakers.
Probably not. Most likely not.
How many years do you have left of MVP KD? It's
hopefully
really
a couple
question.
At least.
Yeah, well, you'd hope so. It just depends how he comes back from that injury.
Yeah.
But you have contracts there that can be moved. So do you do that now? Do you wait halfway through the season? So it's interesting, that there's also the rumor of the Harden trade, which keeps coming up. Doesn't matter how far Harden tries to run away from it or the Rockets try to run away from it. It won't go away. And where there's smoke, there's fire.
I don't like that trade for them because the ball dominance of all the players. I don't know. Harden could just flip and be like, I'm good as a third or a second option because it ain't going to be Kyrie.
I doubt it. He keeps getting rid of guys in Houston.
The weird thing is, and this happened a little bit in OKC with him and Westbrook, Durant is like obviously a number one option level of talent, but he has a passive personality.
Yeah.
Whereas Westbrook was the alpha and would always take like endless poor decisions, bad shots. Whereas like just give the ball to Durant. He's going to get you a bucket, no problem. And if he misses, at least you had the best chance possible to make a shot.
Yeah.
But then if you bring in Harden and Kyrie, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's just a rumor right now. But if you bring in Harden and Kyrie, that's two other mouths to feed when it should be Durant getting fed first, in my opinion. Yeah. Even though he's coming off of an Achilles injury, which is in most cases devastating, historically devastating injury.
Yeah.
You got to feed Durant, man.
No, I'm with you. You
got to feed KD.
I think, Durant has to be the guy, and he has to be the one that tells Kyrie to give him the ball. He has to have that authority that when the game's on the line, the ball's in his hands. And I think it depends on, again, what kind of KD we get this season.
Yeah, we'll see.
If it's going to take him a little while to get back into it, he's an unbelievable player. Just generational.
At his peak, him and LeBron are 1A, 1B. At that point, when he won MVP, I would say they were pretty on par. So, like, if he gets back to about 90% of that, they're in good shape.
Yeah.
It's still tough. They'll have to play the Lakers in the finals, most likely. That won't be a great matchup for them, I don't think.
No.
They got no one to touch on Davis.
Well, I think they're going to struggle to get through a lot of the teams in the East, too. There's a lot of teams in the East that match up really well against.
Yeah. I mean, just hypothetically, if they made the finals. But I agree. They're going to get through a tough East slog.
And there's a lot on the line in Brooklyn. They don't have a lot of wiggle room as far as cap space.
Tough now,
They're kind of handcuffed for a couple of years.
Joe Harris's
contract. The Joe Harris contract. I liked the Joe Harris contract. You got to pay that guy. He's
sniper.
One of the best shooters in the NBA. But yeah, they now don't have any wiggle room for the next couple of years. You kind of have to go into that win now mode and possibly give up future assets to add to the roster that's already there. So I'm interested to see how they improve on the roster, if they do improve on the roster, and what point in the season that they decide that they need help now.
Yeah, I would guess around the trade deadline, just on that point.
Yeah.
I was going to say one other thing here. I was going to say an over-under for Kyrie to make a strange comment, like a before and after. I'm going to say February 1st. The season starts December 22nd.
Okay.
I'm taking the under.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I'd put like $200 flat on it.
I reckon it's going to be like, what did you say, February 1st?
February 1st, over-under.
Oh, I got January.
January?
Oh, yeah.
January 1st?
Oh, yeah.
December 31st.
I literally, I have like the first couple of games of the season, he's going to say something absolutely wild.
We'll see.
Yeah.
If he gets past Feb 1st, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That'll be a new record for Kyrie. Like not
be.
having a headline comment for the first 2 months of the season. That's incredible.
That's pretty incredible, actually, yeah.